So I'll start, Sameh. I want to start with you. Sameh, as you know, in the UAE, there is a lot of focus around citizen happiness. And that is a big theme for the leaders here since a very long time. And they substantiate this with so many elements. We see there is the government excellency program, and they created a framework of how you actually drive the next level citizen experience. And we see them putting awards for the governments, and all the criterias and pillar is very clear. And this year, what is more interesting, that is 2024, that AI is becoming a pillar in itself. So any government, if you want to apply for elite, they have three categories. One of them is AI, the other one is agile organization, and the other one is partnership. So I want you to maybe, Sameh, shed the light on this in the AI, in the focusing on the AI elements, because that's the main topic. But shed the light of that. What do you see or from the government and some best practices that you recommend to our audience to be able to benefit from this?
Okay, thanks a lot, Ma'moon, for this introduction, and your presentation was very comprehensive, and it have a lot of things that we need to thinking behind of the sense. We need to know now in United Arab Emirates, AI currently is a hub, including the cybersecurity part as well. But our speaking today related for the AI, we find that the AI now in UAE we are using especially for support and to deliver services for citizens from different perspective, from healthcare sector, from public and safety, from traffic or transportation, related for also the accessibility for the person who are needed the help and supported in their daily life. From my perspective now, what we are founded now in United Arab Emirates, especially in the healthcare services, we have it enhancement, a lot of medical services related for the permissions and personalized for the medical treatment, and to get it more increase from the customer satisfaction or patient satisfaction, especially when they are dealing with a module for the online consultation. We find it also related for the traffic management and urban planning. We are already implementing an AI and the traffic system, especially what you are highlighted today related for the analytical and analysis. That is one of the main things we are needing to using the AI on it to optimize the transaction system and also to reduce any instant or accidents that we are using. So our best practice now mainly using the AI for analytical and to collecting data, to having our KPI to be measuring, to reach it related for a maturity. Currently, we are already implemented a lot of solutions and a lot of technology related for AI, but we don't get it ROI as you highlighted until now, because we are needed to have it more awareness and to develop more a session like today for a public to understanding the benefit of the AI in their daily life and how it can be improved for the analytics and how we can take it a decision as a government and also as a public service.
Nice. Okay. Thanks a lot, Sameh. I love it. I think Sameh will circulate back to you. I wanna with more interesting thoughts about this towards after. I wanna pick up Muhammad's brain now. So Muhammad, I think as you see, I think in our region there is a lot of focus from almost all government. We see 2030 plan, 2040 plans as well, and I think the level of thinking about AI, I think it's mature. Like from a vision standpoint, there is a good maturity on the AI side. There is bringing to a lot of experts into that domain. I personally, I'm seeing there is, and I think it's because of a lot of confusion. But I want to hear from you. What do you think is the main challenges that it face the adoption of AI on the ground? So we see there is, ministries, cabinets that are doing AI plans and so on and so forth. But when I reflected onto the ground reality, there is a little bit of gap on that, especially on the government. So we want to hear from you, Muhammad. What do you think is the primary challenges? And maybe if you shed the light of some thinking around suggesting some of the solution into that as well.
That is great, Mamoon. Thank you very much. That's a very interesting question, right? So like anything else in life, if something comes with monumental benefits for the general public, it obviously brings its own challenges with it as well. And like you said, at the ground level, at executive level, there's a lot of drive to basically push AI to the right use, to the benefit of the general public. But what kind of challenges do we face at the ground level when we are trying to operationalize the use of AI? Especially looking at AI when we are trying to use it not only for fancy generative AI chatbots to interact with the customers, but also to use AI to analyze the data to help us enhance our products and services being offered by the government to the residents or the public. And then also use it for decision support processes, right? So for example, complex government services, let's say court services, municipal services, land services, or business licensing and permit services. These are complex services. So there, AI can actually help a lot of decision support kind of activities as well. But there's a number of challenges, and I won't focus on technical challenges here. I would focus more on the people and the regulatory side of challenges, basically. One of the key ones that I see is basically a cultural shift, which is required. A cultural shift, a change in the way we currently work in public services, especially in government. For example, we currently, in today's environment, we largely rely on concierge service providers like these service setup companies or the public relationship service providers. For example, if you want to open up a business, you contact a public relationships provider, a business setup company, who are readily available and comparatively low cost in the region as well. People would go there and they would do everything for you. They will do all the interactions and all the transactions with the government. You can use that for court services, for municipal services, for business licensing and setup services, leasing services. So these business setup and government interaction and government transaction services are readily available. People trust them and the system works. It works. I mean, if you need any services, even up to a point that if you want to open up a business bank account, you would probably hire a service provider and who would basically conduct a transaction with the bank on your behalf. And we sort of come to a stage where we trust these services. So in order to maximize the use of AI for the public benefits, the industry needs to drive a cultural shift for people to basically adopt AI-driven services as well. Not only concierge services, but the self-service AI-driven services offered directly to the public, to the general public. That's an adoption that needs to come over time, and it needs to be driven by the AI industry itself. How it needs to be driven by that is by offering smaller packaged AI solutions, which are easier and faster to adopt. Another cultural shift that we see is basically decision-making hierarchies, especially we all know that, and we have all seen it in our day-to-day life at work, is in most of the government entities, we have long hierarchies for decision-making. And often we see like documents which basically has a smaller decision to be made and it's signed by 8, 10, or even 15, 20 people, basically in some cases, right? So moving away from that long hierarchy-based systems to trusting on data-driven AI to provide you information and help you in decision support. A very, very small example of that is you spoke about the Gen AI chatbot, right? So let's say if we are using a knowledge management platform to feed into a Gen AI-based chatbot to answer complex customer queries that would help decision making from the customer side. This itself needs to be adapted as a very small piece. This is the beginning of the AI. This needs to be adapted by the government, just basically saying that, yes, we will let a system-driven AI or a data-driven AI to suggest what a customer should do in this case. And this is also something that needs to be driven by the IT, by the AI industry, by providing the right smaller solutions. Looking at another side of challenges is related to regulations and compliance. In this area, mostly, almost all government entities have multiple layers of regulations and compliance, and these are probably written down and implemented 10, 20, or 30 years ago. and they are at the entity level where they define their own regulation and compliance requirements. And then there are emirates and city level regulatory requirements, and then the federal level requirements. And the higher you go in this level, the more complex and time consuming it becomes to revive those regulations and compliance requirements, to compliance practices, to adapt the use of new modern AI-based technologies. One of the solutions that I've seen working, and we have done it in the past, or in the recent past for some of our programs, is basically we develop project level working groups across government entities to basically look at regulations and compliance practices and help adopt more modern practices in this area. Then we also create executive level groups to basically look at the working groups' work and then drive the decisions in that area. Third challenge I'll very quickly talk about it is basically data and knowledge related, right? So many legacy systems which are built many years ago does not have inbuilt capabilities to collect the right data points. You spoke about the importance of data in AI, right? So these systems does not have clean data, analyzable data about the customers and transactions. We need to basically, and there's a lot of work being done by many government entities to basically work on that and develop the data sets which are analyzable and consumable by AI systems to then help improve existing products and services. And the last but not the least is the knowledge availability. So a lot of information about existing services and practices is tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is that sits in people's head, right? Those people are there and they are providing that knowledge for many years, and it works, right? So that tacit knowledge is not explicit knowledge, it's not very well written down and documented. And for any generative AI or any AI system to work, it has to consume knowledge to basically then produce knowledge. So these are some of the key challenges: three: compliance related, regulatory and compliance, knowledge and content, and cultural shift. I see these are the three major areas that needs to be worked on. There is a lot of work being done to improve over time. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mohammed. There's a lot you said to unpack and make me excited to respond, but I wanna hold my horses. I wanna go to Mustahil. Will circulate back, I hope. So Mustahil, I wanna actually, it's a good segue as Mohammed shed the light on some of the privacy issues, some of the regulatory issues, and for you coming from an interesting background of banking and government and look at techno and business side, maybe give us your perspective into this and how you see it playing down. What is the challenges on these, and maybe some steps that we can take to overcome some of these challenges or look at it from a different angle?
Thank you very much, Mamoon, and of course to Sameh and Mohammed. I think the privacy is it's the talk of the town in all topics, right? So regardless of what we are talking about, be it AI or any other aspects of the technology, privacy always comes first. And I think it's, in my opinion, it's a joint responsibility, be it between the private or public sectors and also the users from the other end, right? So to start with, providing the technology itself, if it's an AI technology, then the government or even the entities on the private sectors, they need to take cautious measures to make sure that all the platforms and the technology is actually built on a quite secure manner, right? So a proper encryption measures should be always in place, tightening in with a regulator or regulation and a framework which is actually streamline those privacy measures, and of course having a proper cyber security elements into the place, probably having an expert or even a partnership with an expert house or a security expert house will definitely help on strengthening that, and of course being transparent enough with the stakeholders, being the connection between the different entities, if it's a government, or even whenever there is a connectivity between two different entities, if it's not government in that case. Being transparent also with the users of exactly how do we safeguard your data in that case or in this manner, and what is expected also from the users by making sure that everything from the user end is actually taken care of, and promoting all this, let's say, awareness campaign of how to use this technology, and make sure that whatever is individual or personal in nature should not be shared with other people. And if it's a community-based kind of platforms, if it's within the enterprise, I think it should be also within the enterprise itself. So adhering to the regulatory frameworks from the user end's perspective is very, very much important. Similar to the preparation from the government or the entity preparation is actually very important. And mainly, the moment you get exposure or additional exposure to your platforms, it's actually increasing the threats to your privacy. And we are talking about the individual privacy or even the organization privacy. However, this kind of privacy and protection mechanism is actually evolving along with the technology. So we need to be up to date in order for us to be able to provide the secure manner to utilize this technology in place. I read an interesting, or I get to know about an interesting statistic about the usage of Siri, for example, which is a clear example of sound AI or cognitive AIs. And there is only a 34% penetration on Siri itself, which raised a lot of concerns about the acceptance of such technology as we speak from the user ends, although such companies actually putting the maximum measures or requirements from a privacy and security perspective. So it's to summarize, it's a two-way effort. There is an effort from the entity part, but there is also an acceptance and an effort from the individuals and end users to actually protect the privacy aspects.
Thanks, Mustahil. So before actually I go in to ask my next question, I want to see if there is any question from the audience. A question to Mustahil. I saw there is a question from Ahmed Zakaria. So Ahmed, I'll start with your question. So Ahmed asked the question of the concept of generative AI, which one of the way chat, which you get an answer from for each question. In telecom, it could be difficult, especially when a customer is having more than one account, along with multiple pre-check and troubleshooting, which will make somehow look like a VA chat. So how can we overcome this issue because people are not okay with VA chat? Well, Ahmed, I agree with you on the concept that people doesn't like VA chat. I'll start with this because really, like for me, maybe I talked about this automation and CX. I think people doesn't like VA chat the way it's structured today because it's robotics, it's menu based. It's like it doesn't provide the customer, it doesn't solve the customer problem or citizen problem. And I think one of the core issue is really, I'm saying like AI need to be upped with certain capability that is actually maybe can be able to serve the customer better than the human. So that's the objective, and it sounds like, it's not like we are far over from this. Is the way today, if you use the AI with the capability to take all knowledge, a human is generally, you need to train them, you are getting is based on what type of, like based on your mood as well, how you respond and so on and so forth. Yeah, it doesn't matter. The more you feed it, the more it will learn. Second is if AI start orchestrating capability, you will be able to solve customer problem at a better way. So I call it, and I say this with this, I'll leave it. I don't want to expand so much on this, but we absolutely can discuss this in a private. But one of the thing is, I say that is the outside in customer engagement, where the customer is controlling the engagement. For me, will become extremely possible when it is an AI driven engagement from the organization. Because the moment AI have all access to all data, presuming that, and have an access to capability, so I can bring in all the assets that we created on the organization, and it can start bringing it visually and helping the customer on solving their problem and helping them and so on and so forth. So for example, they have multiple accounts. The AI will actually push a notification, push a visual capability, because say which account you're communicating with, or he can state it if you want. So there is multiple ways that it can be, but having the AI infused with data, with all kind of data, have the AI be a multimodal, an ability to orchestrate capability, not only data. I think these are extremely important. Of course, like you need to be humanized as well, and these kind of thing, which is we can expand to it on a different session. All right. So, question to Mustahil. Mustahil, considering the rapidly evolving landscape and the shift towards AI in various sectors, including the banking industry, how is the National Bank of Oman positioning itself to integrate and leverage AI effectively to meet evolving customer needs and industry demands? So, Mustahil, I want you to answer this question, but if you link it back as well to our topic on the government side, that will be extremely helpful. Just to share these nuggets and bring it to the government industry, that will be very helpful.
Yeah, actually, there are multiple use cases which is in common between private sector, be it banking or any other sector, or even government. And I think Sam, if I'm not mistaken, he covered or touched base some of those. So one of the use case, for example, is fraud protection, right? Protection, sorry. And these cases is actually a concern, be it for the regulatory or security authorities on the government sides, or even the private sector. So the AI always, and it's one of the proven successful use case, to be honest. Normally there is a proper AI technology or monitoring technology of monitoring the transaction. And if there is a misbehaving on the transaction itself, then the AI detect that and normally alerting it. So that's one of the use cases which is successfully proven so far. We do have also another use case, which is making, and you touch based on Mamoun, which is basically enhancing the customer experience by enhancing tags. So if there is a digital onboarding mechanism or a digital account opening at our mobile banking, for example, then if it's connected with the middle office and the backend, account can be opened instantly and in spots. The similar things can happen definitely on a service provider from government entity, and we have seen that in a couple of governments, for example, for getting a commercial license for the investors, even if you are not a citizen of that country, but you are interested on an investment, you can easily log into a website or an available touch point, and you can get your license in spots. That's normally actually it's backbone with an AI technology to do all the due diligence and KYC requirements. I hope this answered the question.
Nice. Thanks a lot, Mustahil. Appreciate it. Samih, I want to circulate back to you. I want to ask the question. If you look at our region, and I think maybe in UAE has a little bit head start in the rest of the region when it's come to the AI adoption or certain steps towards that. So if you shed the light from your end, given that, I'm personally super excited, and I say about the history cycle, and I said about the West and the West and so on and so forth. So if as we are building, as the region becoming and want to become a formidable for innovation, a hub for innovation, a hub for talents and driving this kind of end, reflecting back into the AI domain, can you shed the light from your perspective on what is the key step, what do we see as important steps towards this, not only from government as well, but give us advice to us, to other people here, but to us as well, like technologists or people who vendors. Give us some of your advice into that element of how to navigate this and how to become that hub for AI and eventually other innovations as well.
Okay, Mahmoud. See, from my perspective, daily when we are dealing with our clients, okay, our clients not meaning just only government sector. Most of us SMEs also, same Mr. Mustahil highlighted also now. Most of the investor when they are coming, they're asking for advice about how AI can benefit us. Okay, from the technology perspective part, when we are dealing with the small companies or small entities that already delivering a solution for market or for the public meaning the citizenship, how they are dealing on it. But to be honestly with you, we need to have it more awareness about the AI and the role of AI in our life and daily life, because most of the people now understanding AI is ChatGPT. Now I needed to speak as a normal person that our daily life speaking with anybody when I staying in Starbucks or any coffee, any person listening for AI, he thinking automatically about ChatGPT. They don't know that ChatGPT is a part of the AI. Okay, that is only delivering for you, like you highlighted in your presentation, to have it a conversation with him. Okay, but to reach it for this maturity, I thinking we need to have it more awareness from the public, from TVs, from media, from our companies or your company or ourselves also, to assure that it will be delivering from a perspective of awareness, not technology part. Second, we need also to have it our hub in the Middle East now, to have it a clear regulation about the using of AI, similar to having when we are using starting the cyber security and the framework for information security, we have it a risk framework. So currently we are working for something in a name, a risk framework for artificial intelligence, how we can precaution our citizen, how we can precaution our country from the AI. Now, as a training already started, especially when I highlighted with you in our earlier speaking about the C-levels and the second level of the directors in all government sector, we already delivering for them now with related for promoting to other position, AI courses, a diploma in AI, innovation in AI, how they are using the AI, not as a generative AI, the tools of AI, how it can will be benefit and how they can, again, we will come back for the return of investment of that.
Thank you. Thanks, Sameh. I appreciate it. Mohammed, before I hand it over to you, there is one of the question on the chat from Animesh. Say, in some instance, AI give incorrect facts, integrating it in multiple departments for complex decision could be a bit dangerous in such hallucination situation. How do we counter this issue? So I think I don't want to give this is require a long answer, and maybe I talked about it. That's the confusion between the level of generative you want and the data guardrailing in general, and how that is different. And I think Sameh touched on a point. Like at the beginning of the year, I had a very interesting conversation. Like people came in and say, I want ChatGPT for the contact center. Like that's how they define AI strategy for them, correct? Like eventually that is happening. But eventually, the more things, a shakeup will happen for sure. Like we are in a hype state. There is a shakeup will happen and reality will kick in. And this is remind me when Google came into organization want to implement this. Knowledge came in as an industry. There is certain expectation come and shakeup happen and so on and so forth. Of course, AI is much bigger, but eventually it will go into a way on the same cycle in a way, but in a completely different way. So, and I think for that, the guardrailing is important, and hallucination, and you can actually build up your data. It's how you define your data model. There is a base model when you put it on the LLM, and then how you're going to feed that LLM and how you start guardrailing the response. That is extremely important when you want to implement what we call it enterprise level AI. So, and as you rightly said, will actually start putting the right structure to how to respond to people within the organization in general, to make sure like privacy is met. You don't want to, and the hallucination is minimized, let's say, or actually it can be eliminated. But a certain area, if you want the fully blown capability to be, it will hallucinate. And we joke a lot about this, like, it's, but I hope I answered the question a little bit. We can expand in deep details about it. It's a very, very big question. Muhammad, I want to hand it over to you as well on the same question as Sameh, as the excitement look here at the region about AI and innovation and how we set up this on the region. So maybe I know you set up interesting nuggets about this, but maybe in a closing notes as well to tell us your view into this.
Thank you very much. Again, there is, Mamun, this is very interesting, right? So there is a lot of push from the government at its highest levels, basically across the region in UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and other countries as well, to adopt AI and adapt it fast over time. Which basically then drives the cultural change within the government departments. It also helps us refine and adapt more modern regulatory and compliance practices, like I spoke about, and then continue to develop systems that would help enrich, fine-tune the content and the data, and then cover up for the problems like this discussion that came up, like what about the AI is hallucinating? This is a very common problem, right? So like you spoke about guardrails, developing data over time. So all of those initiatives are coming in. But on top of that, there is one more thing which I have personally noticed, and it is very, very good for the industry and for the government, for the public sector in the region, is usually in the Middle East, because these decisions are made at the highest levels and because there is a lot of drive, the public sector usually has a higher risk appetite with the technologies and with the transformation, which basically means that we are in a position to take higher degree of risk and experiment with those risks, right? And then with higher degree of risk and higher number of experiments, we always get higher level of innovation as well. So this is one of the biggest element that I see, especially in the public sector here, that would drive a lot of innovation in the next few years in the field of AI generally across the board. And once it is driven by the public sector, it will automatically make its place in the private sector as well. And that would eventually lead to a base, which is the topic of this conversation, that would Middle East be the next big hub for AI? And yes, that's exactly the direction where we are heading with that. Thank you very much. I hope that shed some light on it, though.
No, I love it, Mohammed. Thanks a lot. Mustahal, I want to give you the chance as well to answer the same question, please. If you have any feedback, any thoughts you want to share on the closing.
Well, I think majority of the technology is evolving. I think nations as well is also evolving. The ambitions of different nations differ. However, what we notice from the history that things is actually moving geographically as well. And as you touch upon, Mamoun, the wave is moving from the east to the west, right? So to the west. So I think we are looking forward with our heads up. We need to prepare ourselves from a talent perspective, and I keep bringing all the human. I keep highlighting about the human capability and the skill sets in all the digital transformation forums I attend, because I believe, and I'm a big believer, that any technology will never actually be a success without a skillful people behind that technology. And we'll definitely need to prepare ourselves from that perspective. So let's hope for the best, and I think we are ready for this, inshallah.
Love it. Thanks a lot, Mustahal. So I think I will look just on the chat for any questions. All right, there is one question from we have a lot of complex system that needs AI to first integrate data and understand it, sometimes in real time, how AI can transform and handle the complexity, not only the contact center, but one system for all interaction. So absolutely, I think this issue, like I'll answer it on the Uni4 how we've done it, because I think that's just give you more credibility on our end. So I think this problem is for sure we realize it realize it as an AI native company, and one of the things we did is we actually acquired a company that has a middleware, and it was a middleware for customer interaction. And this is actually to enable us bring this up, because eventually the moment you have a legacy system, the question is, what do you need to do? Is either you need to replace or you have a middleware to interact with a more modern system. So we took that step, and I would say it's not going to be maybe 100%, but we actually bridged the gap at big time on that front to make sure like we capture much data. We integrate with more 120 system. But of course, like AI is as good as the data you feed it. It's the water, it's the oxygen for it. So without it, it's going to be meaningless. But that's the approach we took, and I think that is one of the areas that we solved for that. All right, so team, I know we are ahead of time, but I want to ask one selfish question to you. Maybe to pass it for us as a vendor, as a technology vendor. What is your best advice for us to be able to help governments in a better way, instead of like when you usually think about it, and really this topic is like I've been meditating on this for some time. Like we keep thinking sales, and for me, I think the best way to sell something is not to sell it. To be honest, that's not the right narrative. You should drive value and see how it goes. So, but I want to hear your review, a very pragmatic view and a very practical view, if you don't mind. Like, give us an advice as a technology vendor of how we can help you in that journey. So I want to hear from you. I want to start maybe with you, Sameh, if you want to go first on this.
See, it is the same difficulty I face it, because also I have it a company, and we are not going to knock at the door to say that we need to sell. To be honestly, we need to know now what is the pain or the major pain for the AI in the market. As we are discussed, all of us now, some of them is the talent, some of them awareness, some of them you don't know what is the main feature that we can deliver. So I think what I am working on it by myself, that is, I am usually have it a frequent meeting, going there for the recruitment department and to asking them if there is any tender, if they can advise us to have it some like a one-day session related to promote our services, not as a selling, just only to share the knowledge about that, because at the end you are working in a deep city. You cannot understanding now what is the main pain of all of other of them. As we highlighted from government perspectives, there is a different way, because usually they are hiring us as a house of experts to delivering for them, dealing with them, how we can judge it on the technology. But the main thing also what I highlighted for about the public, the user, employees, how we can touch them, because that is one of the main things that we can go into our sales to understand what they are needs.
Nice. Thanks, Sameh. Muhammad?
That's a very interesting question, Mahmoud, right? So as a vendor, I sit in this place quite often where we meet vendors and they are trying to offer us solutions for the AI. And one of the things that we talk about quite often is basically help us visualize. Help us visualize, not with just the presentation slides and the talking about the AI and using the Chat GPT as an example of the public platforms. Help us visualize how your product can actually help us as this specific government entity. And what do I usually request vendors is basically come up with prototypes, try and understand the limitations that we have, like the content limitation, the regulatory limitation, and all of those, and give us solutions which are more packaged and smaller solutions overall. So it's like basically, like you said very early on, it's like the set of Legos, right? So once you have a piece and if it works in place, then you can have additional bits and pieces together and make it work. So just to basically recap, help us visualize, very, very important. Look at our ground reality and give us a solution that would work in our environment. Not every government entity is the world's largest organization, and we don't basically fit in the same category. So look at us as an individual. And third is give us a solution which is packaged and modular in a way that could help us see the benefits faster, but then we can grow on it, right? Because if we go on a long 2-year journey to implement something, the world changes every 2 years, especially in the technology world, right? So these are the few things that I usually talk about with vendors when we're looking at new products. Does that help?
Absolutely. I love it. I love the answer, Muhammad.
Thanks.
Mustahil?
I left government quite a few years back, so maybe their needs is different than my need. but from a private sector perspective. However, I think to your slide, which I like it very much, Mamoun, which is AI or even technology overall, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I think it's very important to understand that technology has a life cycle, and the people are on a race, right? It's on a marathon. So either you are ahead or behind. If you can show an organization or an entity that they can have 2 or 3 step forward and being ahead on a couple of services, I think they will definitely appreciate that. And this is through the visualization, which Mohammed talked about, right? If you can show them a piece of the picture, and then you can show them hopefully a picture with a frame, that will definitely help them to understand what's the value you're going to add on. And of course, coming from banking sectors, I want to list all the CFOs, if there is any CFOs attending, if you can show the ROI, like the way how you presented in your slides, I think that will definitely help.
Absolutely. Tim, I think that's a great way to end. I really, really appreciate your genuine feedback, Team Sameh, and your valuable contribution. I really loved it. And I hope the audience loved it as well. And audience, thanks a lot for the questions and for being this interactive. I really, really appreciate it. And we hope we will see you in another webinar, or maybe in person, inshallah.